The Boy Who Grew Dragons by Andy Shepherd. Chapter 7. Donuts and Dragon Fruit Crumble. My grandparents only lived a couple of streets away, and I can cut through the park to get to their place. In fact, if they hadn't built the new houses at the bottom of my road, I'd have been able to see their house from my bedroom window. The reason they live quite so close is because when I was younger, I had this hole in my heart, which sounds pretty weird, I know. I mean, what does it even look like? I always imagined being able to stare through it like my heart was a donut, but it wasn't actually like that. I mean, for one thing, there wasn't pink icing and sparkly hundreds of thousands lining my insides like on a donut, which would at least have made up for things a bit. But I was pretty poorly when I was little, so Nana and Grandad moved here to help me while Mum and Dad were at work. When I was about 5, I had to have an operation because the donut hole wasn't closing up like they hoped. When I heard the word operation, I thought it would be like that game where you have to fish things out with tweezers. I couldn't stop worrying that I'd make this horrible buzzing noise and startle the doctor so much that he'd fling my heart across the room. But he reassured me that he had played this game for years and never been buzzed, not once. So I let him do the operation for real, and he did a good job. But Mum and Dad still won't accept that it's mended now and I'm better. They still think I'm fragile and would like to put me in one of those giant plastic balls you can bounce around in at fairs to keep me safe. It's a good job Grandad's here. He's a firm believer in letting kids be kids. He says I need to be allowed to find stuff out on my own, even if sometimes that means I get a few bumps and scrapes. Like the time I showed him my design for roller skates after Mum and Dad refused to get me some. It involved a lot of blue tack, sellotape and biros, but he let me build them anyway. It wasn't a total success, but I did learn how much the floor hurts when you hit it with your face, which in itself is an important lesson. So like I say, I'm totally fine now, apart from being a teeny bit on the teeny side, and the doctor said I'll probably shoot up like a bean one day, but I'm still waiting for that. On the upside, it means Nana and Grandad live only 2 minutes and 45 seconds away. On the downside, I can't help but wondering if all that looking after me was what made Grandad poorly, because now he has a funny heart, not the funny ha-ha kind. Mum and Dad insist it's nothing to do with me, and Nana says it's more likely being caused by all the trifle and cheese he used to eat. But I still can't help thinking Grandad was supposed to be retired and taking it easy, not running around after me. I wasn't a patient. I didn't like being poorly, and sometimes when I watched my friends all playing footy and I wasn't allowed, I would get really cross. I even remember shouting at Grandad and hiding from him on purpose, so he had to hunt for me for ages, which can't have been very nice or restful. But whenever I start to worry about him, he accuses me of sticking him in a giant plastic ball. So, even though there'll always be this little raw bit deep down in my belly, whenever I think of that, I keep it to myself. When I arrived that morning, I headed straight round to the back. I could see Nana through the kitchen window, leaning over a huge saucepan, steam swirling up around her. A sweet, fruity smell came floating out towards me. I gave her a wave, then I hurried down the garden, across the neat lawn, through the little group of apple and pear trees with their low crooked branches, and on past the abandoned beehives, which Grandad is always promising to clean up, but never has. And then I saw him in the far corner, spade poised, ready to tear up the roots of the dragon fruit tree. I shrieked and ran towards him. "Grandad, stop!" "Hey up, Chipstick. Hope you bought your mussels. We need to shift this thing, then we can start planning what goes where." He pointed his spade at the dangly cactus-like tentacles. "But Grandad," I panted, trying to catch my breath. "I found out what it is. It's a dragon fruit tree." I quickly stepped out in front of his outstretched spade. "I looked it up last night." Grandad's face wrinkled. "Never heard of one of those." He angled the spade again, ready to do battle. "I thought I could look after it," I spluttered. "But it's taking up half of the veggie plot. We can get some nice beans in there. Wouldn't you prefer some nice beans?" I shook my head until I thought my brains would fall out. Then I blurted out the only thing I could think of that might make him change his mind. "Didn't you want some fancy fruit? Think of it, dragon fruit jam. You don't get many dragon fruit jam tarts, do you?" Grandad rested his spade and peered across at me. He was giving me his "what are you up to" look, Then he winked and said, "Best tell Nana to prepare for some dragon fruit crumbles as well then, eh?" He turned away and began battling with a bramble. I breathed a sigh of relief, pulled open my pocket, and stared down at the little dragon curled inside. His bright diamond eyes twinkled back up at me. Chapter 8 is called That's Grim, That Is. Like I said in the last video, you should have access to Google Classroom now. If you don't already, check the app for details on how to get on, and then you can start leaving comments about what you're enjoying in the book so far. As always, I hope you're all okay, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all soon. See you later.